So now I said there is a security that behaves like this. You start from 0, and there's a 50% chance that it goes to -1, 50% chance that it goes to 1. And then from -1, 50% chance it goes to -2, 50% chance it goes to 2, and so on. So at any point in time, there's a 50% chance it moves up by 1, or 50% chance that it moves down by 1. And that's true for all of it, except when it goes to -10 or 10, and those are like hard walls. If it goes to -10, it has to go back to -9. If it goes to 10, it has to come back to 9. Oh, Athar, I will come to your question after I do this. Sorry about that. I'll come to it. Okay. So if it's at -10, it has to come back to -9. If it's at 10, it has to come back to 9. That has to happen. Otherwise, anywhere in between, there's a 50% chance it goes up by 1, 50% chance it goes down by 1. So -10 and 10 are like hard walls. It cannot cross those boundaries. So the first question was, what is the fair value of this asset? The fair value is the same as the expected value over a long term or over your trading horizon. Where do you expect this to be? What is the fair price or the expected value or the fair value? So that is what fair value means. If there was any confusion on what fair value means, I'm sorry about that. So fair value is simply the expected value of the stock. So if you can see it is basically at any point in time, it is equally likely to go up or down. It is equally likely to go, and if it goes to -10 or 10, it is going to come back to 9. You can write this, you can solve this using an equation, and what is the probability it spends on each one of those and draw a distribution. But it is intuitively clear that the expected value for the stock is 0, right? So the fair value of the stock is 0. So that's question 1. We solve that for you. So now the next question was, assuming there are no position limits and no fees to trade, what is the most ideal way to trade this asset so that you maximize profits? So now I'm not looking for code here. You just have to give a logic on how would you go about trading this asset. So you can think about it like this: if it is at 0, the expected value of trading at 0 is 0, right? Because the expected value of the stock is at 0 and you're at 0, so it doesn't make sense to trade at 0 at all. But now if the stock goes to 1, the expected value of trading there is 1, right? Because the expected value of the stock over a long horizon is 0. You know it is going to come back to 0 at some point, and now you're at 1. So do you trade at 1? But because there's also 50% probability that it can go to 2. It can come back to 0 with a 50% probability. So if you sell at 1, you can buy it back at 0. But if you sell at 1, it could go to 2. And now if it goes to 2, you could sell at 2 and sell higher. So, but you should also remember that it can goes from 0 to 1, from 1 comes back to 0, goes to 1, comes back to 0. It is quite possible the stock just does that. Or it could go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then comes back all the way. All of these things are possible. So now in the first case, when there is no limit, you can trade as many times as you want, and you're not paying to trade at all. So trading as many times as you want means if you sell at 1 and you want to sell again at 2, you can do that. If you want to sell again at 3, you can do that. If you want to sell again at 4, you can do that. What is the best way to trade the stock? Don't write code, just give a 2-line answer. What is the best way to trade the stock? Then the next question says, there is still no fees to trade, but now you can only have a position of 1. So that position of 1 means that if from 0, if the stock goes to 1 and you decide to sell at 1, you can't sell any more until you buy that 1, buy or sell back. So what might happen is it's from 0, it goes to 1, you sell at 1, comes back to 0, and you buy it back. And now you can do whatever you want after that. But if it goes from 0 to 1, you sell at 1, and now it goes to 2 and you want to sell again, that's not possible because you have a position limit of 1, so you can only trade once. So now in that scenario, what is the best way to trade the stock? Same way, if it from 0 it goes to -1 and then you decide to buy it -1, and it goes to -2 and you say, oh, this is a better level, I want to buy again. You can't do that. You can't do that until you say that buy that I made at -1, I'm going to get out of it. And then I want to trade again at -2 or wherever you want to trade next. So if that's the case, what is the best way to trade the stock? And now the third question says, there is still a position limit of 1, but there is also a fees to trade. So there is a fees to trade the stock beyond the position limit. What is the best way to trade the stock? So what that means is if the stock goes to 1, you decide to sell the stock, you pay a fee of 0.1 to sell. And now the stock comes back to 0 and you want to buy the stock back, you pay a fee of 0.1 again to buy. So you net make a profit of 0.8 because you're paying a fees of 0.2. Same thing now if you the stock is at 0, then it goes to 1, you say, oh no, I'm going to wait to trade, and then the stock goes to 2, and then you finally sell the stock. So now you sold at 2, you pay a fee of 0.1, and then when the stock comes back to 1, you say, I don't know, what if it like goes back to 2 again? I don't know if it's going to go to 0, so I'm just going to buy it back at 1, and you buy it back at 1, and you pay a fee of 0.1 again, and you make a profit of 0.8. Now in this scenario, what is the most ideal way to trade the stock? Again, please don't write any code. I mean, if you write code to solve it yourself, that's fine, but what we're looking for is just a logical way. So your logical way could be, I'm going to just trade every time it goes to 1 or -1. And just give me the logic. I'm going to trade every time at 1 and -1 because this. Or I'm going to wait until it goes to 5 or -5, and then I'm going to trade because this. And that's what I'm looking for in this question. So is this question clear? Is there any questions about the question itself? Like, what are you supposed to do in the question? Okay, so if there are no questions about this question, I'm going to answer Tharval's question, and then I'm going to end this discussion. If you have any more questions, please just reach out to us on Discord. Someone said that it would be ideal if we could give you solutions of the assignment. I didn't want to give you the solutions because then that makes you not think. It just makes you copy the solution, and the whole idea here is for you to think about the questions and for you to think about what you're trying to solve and why you're doing why you're doing these assignments, why you're doing what when you solve a question, just to think about that idea. All right, sorry. But what I will do is that for the next what I will do is for next week, we will give you the answers to each of these problems. And if you were stuck and you were not able to move forward because of that, we'll give you the answers next week. But I don't want to give you the answers this week because that is just going to prompt you to just copy the answers and not really think. And trust me, if you don't understand or if you don't think, you won't be able to get, like, the material is just going to build on everything that we've done so far, and then you'll feel lost, which is why it's really important to understand all of these concepts. I'm just going to quickly go over this question once more for those who missed it. You have a stock that goes that behaves like this. It is, if it's from 0, it can go to -1 with a 50% probability or go to 1 with a 50% probability. At 1, it can go to 0 with a 50% probability, 2 with 50% probability. So any point in time, there's a 50% chance it moves up and 50% chance it moves down by 1. Except when it goes to -10 and 10, there's a 50%, then there's a 100% chance that it comes back. So -10 and 10 are like hard walls. If it is -10, it has to come back to -9. If it is at 10, has to come back at 9. So the first question was, what is the expected value of the stock? The fair value is just expected value. What do you expect the price of the stock, the average price of the stock, to be over the long term? So just how you calculate expected value, that's how you calculate the fair value of the stock. That's what fair value means. Fair value, fair price, expected value, expected price. All of them are same things. The second question was, if there are no position limits and no fees to trade, how would you trade that stock? So that means when the stock is at 0, obviously it doesn't make sense to trade because the expected value is 0. But when the stock goes to 1, then you can say, okay, now if I sell at 1 and I buy back at 0, because my long-term expected price is 0, so I should be able to buy back at 0 at some point in time. And I will make a profit of 1, so I'm going to sell at 1. Now if the stock goes to 2, then you can say, okay, this is an even better level to sell. I'm going to sell at 2. And then when the stock goes back to 0, you buy it back at 0. Or maybe when the stock goes back to 1, then you say, okay, I'm going to buy the sell at 2, I'm going to buy it back at 1. But the sell at 1, I'm going to wait till 0 and then buy that back at 0. But there are many ways to trade. You can trade as much as you want. You're not paying any price to trade, and your position can be as much as you want. So you can sell at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way till 10, and you can keep buying them, or you can buy them. You can wait till 0 to buy them back. You can buy them back or at 5, whatever you wish. So now the question is, what is the most ideal way to trade this? In what way can you trade that you maximize your profits? Don't write code here. Just send me a two-line logic. This is how I will trade because of this reason. That's what we're looking for. The next question says, there is no fees to trade, but but you only have a position limit of 1. So now that means if the stock goes to 1 and you sell at 1, and then the stock goes to 2, you can't sell at 2 anymore because you already have that position of 1. So that is what a position limit of 1 means. You can't sell at 2 until you decide to buy that sell that you did at 1 again. So your position always has to read 1, 0 or -1. It cannot be anything else. If it goes to -1 and you buy, you can't buy anymore. If it from -1 it goes to -2 and then you say, oh shit, I want to buy at -2 now, you can't do that. You have to first get out of your position and then you can buy again. So that's what a position limit means. And the third question said, you have a position limit and now you also have a fees to trade. So now in this case, if the stock goes to 1 and you sell and then comes back to 0 and you buy, you're paying a fees of 0.1 each side, so your net profit is 0.8. Or you could say, I'm not going to trade at 1. 1 is too less of a profit. I'm going to wait till 2 and then I'm going to trade at 2. So then if the stock goes to 2 and you buy, and then it comes back to 0 and you sell, you make a profit of 1.8. So that's what the last question says. For each of these questions, you can write code to solve them, but don't send us code. Just send us like a 2-line answer. This is what I will do, and this is why I will do that. Then that's all. Okay. All right. So Athar was asking, what does standardizing random variable have to do with CLT? Okay. So standardizing a random variable simply standardize. Let me put that sheet up. But standardizing a random variable basically just means that you subtract the mean and divide it by a standard deviation. So instead of a random variable which doesn't have a scale, you don't know what your scale of the distribution is. You might be working with a normal random normal variable which has a mean of 10 and a standard deviation of 55, and then you can be working your other random variable has a distribution where the mean is 0 and the standard deviation is 10, and you can't compare those two. So the only thing that standardizing a random variable helps you do is it converts a random variable into another variable which says this is how far this percentage of standard deviation is. This variable is X% standard deviation away from my mean, and that is now that is a scale that you enforce on all your variables, and then you can start comparing your variables. Standard, it doesn't directly relate to CLT. You can get those variables to behave almost like normal. They don't necessarily have to be normal. I think the sheet says they behave like normal, but they don't always behave like normal. They behave almost like normal, and that's just because you're enforcing that scale. But they don't have to. They don't have to be normal. I think I say that further down in the sheet that you must ensure is your distribution normal or not. So CLT just says if you make a sum of large numbers and you expect you expect that distribution to be normal. So if your random variable was a sum of multiple random variables, and then and I'm not sure if the sheet says that or not, but I should say that in the sheet somewhere. If the random variable that you're standardizing was a sum of other random variables, let's say you're taking a mean. So your random variable is a mean of your distribution, and then from that, if you subtract them, if you subtract the expected population mean and the standard deviation, then that becomes normal. So CLT just says that if you sum or average random variables, and that's classical CLT. If you sum or average random variables, their distribution becomes close to normal. That their distribution becomes exactly normal. So that's how CLT comes into picture, standardizing a random variable. I should say that the random variable that you're standardizing needs to be a sum or average of other variables to relate to CLT. If it's not, then it is close to normal in most situations, but it's not exactly normal, the distribution. So Athar, I hope that solves your question. All right, guys, there are no further questions. I'm going to end this here, and if there was anything that was left unanswered, just please send me a shout out on Discord. Thanks for listening. Bye.